This video is the most detailed and comprehensive guide to Legion PvP exploits in existence. It has been compiled over many months of play and contains many secrets even elite exploiters are unaware of. If you have any serious interest in PvP, I would bookmark it as you will need to refer to it repeatedly. Be warned, many of these plays are extremely strong. If you use any exploit in rated play persistently, you will get reported and you will get banned. The Havoc Demon Hunter level 28 honor talent, Rain from Above, is currently the most exploitable ability in PvP right now. To understand why, we first need to understand how the talent is supposed to work, as I am demonstrating here. You shoot up into the air, and as you do so, you enter what sophisticated players would recognize as vehicle mode, allowing you to shoot people with fell flames as you descend back towards the ground. Now that's how it's supposed to work, but you'll find there is a split second before the fell flame bar appears where you can still activate Fell Rush, and this will enable you to gain more height than using any other ability in the game. Now you can gain even more height by using this freeze time macro developed by a guy called TRG Semi back in Warlords of Draenor. I found this macro has an amazing synergy with Rain from Above, as the player is frozen in position while the fell flame bar expires, allowing the player to go not just past but right over the gate. Using these methods you can get over or on top of any building in the game. For example, entering the Alliance Fortress in Isle of Conquest while the gates are still up. In fact, if you set the freeze macro to a long enough time interval, it is possible to escape the boundaries of any battleground altogether.
I don't have a target.
The monk ability Roll and its upgrade Chi Torpedo, as well as the similar ability Flying Serpent Kick, can currently be glitched to travel great distances. By inducing lag artificially, these abilities will extend far beyond their natural lifetime, allowing the player to achieve fantastic speeds, normally only attainable to those with advanced third-party hacking tools. Lag can be induced in a number of ways, but the most practical and accessible for most people is to use the program Lag 7. And I'll link to a download for that below. Now you'll want to induce lag for only about 4 to 5 seconds, because any longer there's a danger that your character will go into a permanent offline state and disconnect. The monk can achieve a maximum speed of 425% in Carry the Flag battlegrounds. Now, all classes can benefit to a greater or lesser degree from lag manipulation, as we'll see. The Vengeance Demon Hunter in particular has an amazing talent called Demonic Trample. This talent allows the player to change into demonic form and attain 200% increased speed for 8 seconds. Again, you can significantly extend this ability using lag. As you can see here, I can travel about 3/4 of the length of the entire battleground in just one burst of lag extended demonic trample. Combined with Infernal Strike and Glide, this makes the Vengeance Hunter unstoppable as a practical matter. You'll notice that at no stage does an Alliance player even get close to me. It is virtually impossible, not just because of the speed, but because the lag means I'm untrackable visually almost half the time. Now, any class can extend any type of speed buff, including the buffs you get in the battlegrounds themselves. The examples I've shown you here are simply the most dramatic ones. You can also do things like extend mounted buffs indoors, and there are all kinds of possibilities here which exploiters have been developing over time. Now I'm going to show you what I consider to be the biggest damage dealing exploit in Legion so far. The Fury Warrior is a class designed to use multiple two-handed weapons, but when I equip a one-handed sword, watch what happens to the DPS of my various abilities. You'll see that when I switch from my artifact weapons to a double-hander with a one-hand offhand, I lose several abilities, as you might expect, but the DPS from my Whirlwind and Bladestorm abilities increase quite dramatically. Overall, my DPS gains dramatically by using an offhand one-hander and abandoning my artifact weapons. Further, when I equip a single one-hander into my offhand, I lose Whirlwind, but the DPS from Bladestorm goes off the charts. Now this is primarily a twinking exploit, and people have been burning up the sub-max level PvP brackets using this glitch, though indeed it is even somewhat effective at max level. And what I've simply been doing is equipping a double-hander and a one-hander in my offhand, and mostly just spamming Whirlwind, which is quite enough to get you game-breaking DPS in most battlegrounds. To truly optimize your DPS exploiting this glitch, you'd want to have a macro to use your artifact ability, then switch to a single one-hander in your offhand just for Bladestorm, and then switch back to a double-hander and a one-hander in your offhand for Whirlwind spam. The following is a terrain exploit I'm extremely proud of because no one to my knowledge has ever discovered this method before. It allows any player regardless of class to get on top of the lumber mill roof here in Arathi Basin. It took me several weeks to develop this one. First, go to the right of the mill and jump on top of the tube branch, enabling you to get onto this raised area. Now move forward and jump up and to the right here. Now turn around, jump and use a goblin glider. These can be purchased very cheaply off the auction house in bulk nowadays. And if you time it just right, you should just land on top of this tied up pile of logs. Now you'll want to jump up the rope until you can't go any further. And then when you can't go any further, walk forward, just tapping the key a single time until you fall off. It is very easy to overdo it. Now, having done that, mount up, move slightly backward, but be careful not to fall off, then forward and mount up as you do so. You're now on the side of the building, and to get to the main part of the lower roof, again give yourself some space and then mount jump forward. And from this location you can easily control the battle, and makes it basically impossible for the enemy team to tick the base. You can move out of line of sight and heal yourself if you are targeted by multiple ranged opponents. Here in the Eye of the Storm, you can glide onto this rock spire here, or alternatively you can simply walk and jump up it, as I'm demonstrating with my Warlock here. The advantage of gliding is obviously it's faster, and from this vantage point you have an enormous advantage as a ranged class, especially as a fire mage whose flame cannon talent will allow them to attack the flag area, whereas they themselves are just out of range from anyone in that vicinity. And you can really put down some fantastic DPS in this location. Here in Isle of Conquest at the Alliance Fortress, This bookcase offers the player an amazing opportunity for last-ditch defense of the boss. It is a little trickier than it looks to get on top of the bookcase, but it is well worth it, as you can potentially DPS half the enemy team without melee or AoE damage affecting you. These weapons in the Alliance flag room in Warcraft Gulch can be climbed onto, and this is an extremely useful location since most of the time in this battleground the match is decided within the flag room. Again, you are out of melee range, and while you can be targeted by range, often the enemy will be focusing your flag carrier or your healer. This is also an excellent spot if you yourself are a healer. I showed this location in Warsun Gulch last year in my Warlock Guide video, and surprisingly, given how easy it is to take control of the battleground as a monk or a warlock from this vantage point, it still hasn't been fixed. You simply jump using a goblin glider from the top of the Horde tunnel to the top of these tree stumps, and you can then attack at will, and anytime you need to retreat to safety, you can just port back up there using Demonic Circle or Monk Transference. In battle for Gil Nests, you can get on top of many buildings via the Goblin Glider, and here at the waterworks we can jump across the river onto this wooden structure and then onto the house behind the flag and make it almost impossible for the enemy team to cap, moving out of line of sight if we come under attack. As I showed recently in my Shaman guide, here at Stonehearth Outpost in Alterac Valley, you can jump on this wall bracket and take advantage of the position to DPS players attacking Belinda from behind. You don't need a Shaman's Gust of Wind ability to do this. You can also use Hunter's Disengage or Druid Wild Charge to achieve the same effect. You can also use one of these special abilities to protect Dun Baldar Fortress from above. Back in Battle for Gil Nests at the lighthouse, we can climb up this boat and from that location jump onto this tree to the right of the flag. And enemy players will rarely notice you here, and they'll find it very difficult or impossible to extract you from that vantage point. And while you are there, capping is practically impossible. The tree can be reached by all classes with no special abilities required. In Isle of Conquest, the long series of oil pipelines that stretch across this battleground are very useful to the exploiter, especially here at the docks, where you often get pitch battles for control early in the battleground. Again, you'll need either Gust of Wind, Disengage, or Wild Charge to get you up here. You'll find that you can do incredible DPS up here, and players will rarely even look up. Very often you'll decisively swing the battle. Here at the hangar, we can protect the flag with an added advantage over that of most terrain exploits, since these rocks aren't solid and my shaman can shoot lightning straight through them, so the enemy has no visual indication where the attack is coming from. In Deepwind Gorge, the Pandaren mine has a conveniently placed rock. You don't need any special abilities to get onto it, but unless you know how, and enemy players invariably don't, then no one is going to be able to reach you. Finally, this is probably the most powerful terrain exploit in the whole game, though also one of the most challenging points to reach. Over at the Goblin Mine, you can jump onto this crane using a special jump ability. It is very easy to get this one wrong. However, once you're on top, you have an excellent vantage point and will be able to control the flag. Since there are only 3 flags in Deepwood Gorge, once you're up here, it is usually game over. In Twin Peaks, targeted jumping abilities can get you out of bounds as a flag carrier, making a win impossible for the enemy team. Targeted jump abilities include Rogue Grappling Hook, Warrior Heroic Leap, and Demon Hunter Infernal Strike, as I'm demonstrating here. In Eye of the Storm, the Mage Tower has an opportunity for Adler Rogues to take the flag out of bounds. Jump on this hat stand, or whatever the hell it is, at the back of the tower, and then use your grappling hook at this point precisely. An inch or two either way and it won't work. You can now run up the staircase and experience the weird vanishing bookcases and furniture. If anyone knows the story behind that, I'd like to hear it. The Frost Mage's Frost Orb ability, as you can see here, goes straight through this wall and damages the target dummy. And in Isle of Conquest, you can see the practical application of this. The orb goes straight through the intact gate and damages the siege engine. This amazing warlock trick I learned from a video by the talented YouTuber Luxley, which I'll link to below. The warlock can put down a demonic circle, then move to a different location, target an enemy and cast Chaos Bolt. Then at the conclusion of Chaos Bolt, cast Demonic Circle, and the Chaos Bolt will be cast at the Demonic Circle location and will go through any physical barriers to reach the target. This is a devastating finishing move in Arena. The Hunter's Stampede ability similarly goes through all physical barriers, as I'm showing you here, as does Explosive Shot. The Frost Mage talent Glacial Insulation is one of a number of abilities that can be switched during the preparation stage of Arena or Battlegrounds, when talents can be changed freely. You can gain a small but significant advantage from it. Simply have Glacial Insulation chosen, cast Ice Barrier, then switch it to another talent in the level 30 tier. You will find that the Ice Barrier maintains the 100% armor bonus from Glacial Insulation for its full duration despite the talent switch, and of course you get the benefit of the other talent in the tier. Similarly, the enhancement shaman talent, shamanism, can be glitched. Cast terrorism just as the preparation buff is fading, then switch your talent to shamanism. The normal heroism buff will persist on your character, but after it has expired, you can then cast the alternate version of shamanism immediately. This allows for some heavy DPS bursting at the start of Battlegrounds. The Survival Hunter level 100 talent, Spitting Cobra, is also exploitable. You can summon the Cobra, then change the talent, and the Cobra will persist for its 30-second duration. Finally, as I mentioned in my Shaman guide recently, the level 75 Primal Elementalist talent can be manipulated. With the talent active, summon your elemental, and then switch talents, and the empowered effects of the Primal Elementalist talent will persist through the life of the summoned elemental. The Vengeance Hunter talent, Sigil of Chains, can be used as a means to one-shot players over the edge of cliffs, with very precise targeting, as I'm demonstrating here. You can use basically the same trick with the Ursul's Vortex ability that Druid says. The workshop in Isle of Conquest has a secret hiding place that only gnomes and goblins can fit into, under these steps to my right here. Once inside, you can only be attacked by auto attacks, which do very little damage indeed, and virtually any class's self-healing can deal with. This is a great way to troll the enemy. You'll often find 6 to 8 players trying to work out how to get at you and completely forget about the objectives of the battleground. Strange of the Ancients remains in Legion the single most exploitable PvP instance. Demon Hunters can easily bypass all 3 gates when attacking through the use of Infernal Strike, and for these purposes Outlaw Rogue's Grappling Hook and Warrior's Heroic Leap work exactly the same way. You can use these abilities for those classes in exactly the same way as I'm showing here, the only difference being that the longer cooldowns make the process slower. For classes with a non-targeted special jump ability, slightly different methods are needed, as I'll demonstrate with the Shaman's Gust of Wind talent here. Hunter Disengage and Druid Wild Charge can be used in exactly the same ways also. Warlock's Demonic Circle and Monk's Transference talent can also be used to port behind gates between rounds, as I've shown in previous videos. One trick that is arguably even more powerful is to put down a Demonic Circle at the end of the round you're attacking, and then in the second round port inside this gate. As you can see here, this allows you to defuse bombs from inside the gate without the enemy being able to attack you. The following exploit involves the use of the freeze macro I mentioned at the start of the video, and will win any Twin Peaks battleground where your team is ahead on flags or the score is tied and your team can last. Can also be used quite effectively in Eye of the Storm. Simply take the flag and jump off the edge of the cliff, then use the freeze macro. You want to set the freeze macro for a very long interval, i.e. until the battleground actually ends. While you are suspended in midair, the enemy can't get at you, and you can run down the clock, guaranteeing a win. You can use the same basic trick to gain an advantage as DPS in Dalaran Arena. At the start of the match, you're in these pipes, but if you hang around too long, you get blown out and onto the arena floor. Unless, of course, you have a freeze macro. DPS classes can gain a noticeable advantage by using this technique to delay combat until the dampening buff kicks in. The rogue's ability Grappling Hook often misfires, but can be useful for getting into inaccessible locations and escaping from battle. As you can see here, I can jump on top of this normally inaccessible Draenei ruin structure and hold this base indefinitely. Back in Warsong Gulch, you can do some amazing parkour and jump into some really weird locations even a demon hunter would have trouble accessing. And you can also do some cool Spider Girl stuff in Dun Baldar Fortress. The Grappling Hook can also get you on top of any flag instantly, which provides some protection when being targeted by melee. Finally, this hack I've left to last because it is one of my favourite tricks, and also because most people are going to totally miss how powerful it is. Here in Shadowmoon Valley in Drenna, in the Nightmarsh area, there are flowers called shadow lilies all over the place, which you can click on and will give you a buff called Glow Step. This lasts 10 minutes and can be taken into a battleground. Now, at first glance, it just seems to be a water walking buff, and you may think, well, so what? There are tons of ways to walk on water in Warcraft, but this has one crucial difference. The water walking buff persists even when you're in combat, and I think is completely unique in that regard. In battlegrounds, this makes you virtually invincible whilst walking on water. Take Iraqi Basin here. I get targeted by this rogue and try to make my escape. Now, normally I'd be toast at this point, but because the buff doesn't vanish on combat, I can easily get away. So there's the guide. If you liked it, then hit that subscribe button and the notification bell next to it to avoid missing out on cool stuff like this before it gets fixed. And if you really liked it, consider becoming one of my Patreons at the link below. And that way you'll get access to a treasure trove of material that just can't be published on an open channel. And that service is priced at $10 per month. And feel free not to sign up to that, especially if you can't afford it. But I think you're going to love it if you do. Thank you for watching. This has been Archfelder.